Today, let's walk through the steps of how to make this microwavable rice heating pad. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are talking about how to make this heart-shaped heating pad perfect for your wrist, neck, hand, really wherever you want it to go. The best part is that there is an Etsy pattern available for this too, and I will include the link to that in the description. The pattern will come with this nice heart-shaped pattern piece. The big piece to keep in mind with all of this is that it says cut on fold. We are cutting out our fabric on the fold for this pattern. Now for this pattern, there is a 1-inch gauge at the bottom, so you can measure that out into centimeters as well. Make sure this matches up so that you have the correct size heart. Once you do that, you're just going to get your paper scissors to cut out the pattern piece. Do not want to be using any fabric scissors for this, and just trace out that half a heart so that you can get the pattern piece ready to go. Now for the actual pattern itself, you're going to need some fabric, specifically cotton fabric. You do not want any sort of polyester as it could melt. You want scissors, pins, a hand needle with matching thread. You can also use your sewing machine if you just want to skip that part, and then some white rice. So I am just using this as an example, but you really just want that uncooked white rice that will be going into our heating pad. So now we are going to start with our fabric. So I have my cotton fabric here and I have my pattern piece. So ignore this old pattern piece that I was using. There is that brand new one that you will see when you print out your pattern. But what we are going to do is fold our fabric in half. So you can see I have my fabric folded. There's 2 layers, and I am just going to place my pattern piece on that fold. So that nice straight edge where yours says cut on fold, you are lining that up with the edge of this fabric, and we are just going to pin this heart all the way around. Now this heart has a curve on it, and the reason why I say that is because it's very important that we are cutting all the way around that curve. So you want to make sure that this looks as nice and curved as possible. You can use scissors, you could use a rotary cutter, whatever you find is the easiest to do this. Now I did have to fight the cat while I was trying to cut it out, but once you do get it cut out once, we are going to repeat all of those same steps to cut out a second heart. So once we got stuffing to move off our fabric, I was then able to just line this back up again on the fold of the fabric. So I have those 2 layers, and I am just pinning this on the fold so that I'm able to then just take my scissors and cut all the way around. So once you have those 2 layers, you just want to open them both up. Make sure you have 2 hearts. This is the front and the back of our heating pad. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these with right sides together, so matching the hearts on top of each other. So as you can see here, just lining them all up, and then I am going to be pinning these. So as you can see right now, I have those right sides together, and I'm taking my pins, or you can use quilting clips, whichever you have on hand, and just pinning these all the way up. But I am going to leave about a 2-inch gap on one of these straight edges. So you can see I'm doing it on this edge. I'm just going to measure out 2 inches. So 1 square is 1 inch on this board. And I am going to be marking 2 pins for where I'm going to be starting my seam, and then 2 pins for where I'm going to be ending my seam. So this we need to keep open so that we're able to fill it with rice, but we're going to be starting on one edge, going all the way around, and then stopping right where those other 2 pins are, making sure we leave that open. So now I'm going to go all the way through, sew this up, and I do have another video out on specifically how to sew curves if you run into any issues, but because of how this heart is shaped, we're going to be doing a lot of pivoting. So I go down to my edge, put my needle into the machine, lift up the presser foot, adjust my fabric, turn it, and then I'm going to put the presser foot back down and continue on my way sewing all the way around the heart. Now for these curves, it's really important to be guiding it with your hands. As you can see, I'm doing, having my left hand kind of guiding the fabric as my right hand goes through, and then I do some more pivoting as well when I get to the point where the heart changes directions. So putting my needle in the fabric, lifting up the presser foot, and then continuing all the way around. Now I do have some more tips in case you're struggling with that curve in any way, so I'll be sure to link that video, and it's also stated in the pattern. So now I have that opening, and what I'm going to do is now go through and trim up some of this extra fabric, as well as cut out some notches so that when we turn this right side out, it lays nice and smooth. So the first is where we had that change of direction. I'm just going to snip that, and then as you can see, I'm getting very, very close to that seam, but not going through it, and just cutting out these little triangles. This is going to give our fabric a little bit more room when we turn this right side out. So I'm going to do this on either side for the heart, and then at that point at the bottom, I just snip that off. So now I'm going to turn this right side out so I have the fabric on the outside, and to do this I'm just going to push the fabric through. Now since this is a bigger hole, I didn't run into too many issues pushing the fabric out, but you could definitely use a pencil or a chopstick if you start to run into issues. So here is what my heart looks like. It looks really good, and now it is time for the rice. So remember, this is uncooked white rice. You could also use flaxseed if you wanted. You do not want it to be cooked though in any way. And then I'm just going to take some paper. I use about like a 5 by 8 inch piece of paper and roll this up into what looks like a funnel. Now if you actually had a funnel on hand, you could definitely use that. I just didn't have one. So I rolled up the paper so you can see there's a hole at the bottom where the rice will be able to get through. And then I also have this bigger opening at the top that I'll be able to pour the rice in to make it a little bit easier. Now, as you can see here, I just very carefully started to pour my rice into the heart. This did get a little messy, so one tip I do have for you is if you put this actually into a bowl, it will help sort of hold some of that rice that does fall out and will make it not as messy. Now, I used about 2.5 to 3 cups of rice. Once I had that in there, it was then just time to sew up that little edge that we need to sew closed. Now, as you can see here, I did hand stitches, just taking a whip stitch with that thread all the way through. You could also use your machine to do this and just take a seam all the way through as well. I did make a second one of these as a test, and I did the machine method, and both methods work fine, so whichever you're more comfortable using, the machine or hand sewing. So at this point your heart is complete. We have the rice in there, we took that seam all the way around. This is a great beginner project for sewing on a curve also, as you really only have that one seam you have to do. So I love the size of this. It fits my wrist really well, fits my hands really well. It could also be used on like your neck and shoulder. So with all of this said, let's go ahead and take it down to the microwave. So I tested this out at multiple different ranges. I found 30 to 45 seconds was really the best for me, but definitely test with your microwave and do it in 30-second increments to determine how hot you want it. Now, as someone who has arthritis, this feels absolutely amazing on my hands, and my wrist, and my neck. And if you want to make one of these yourself and want more information, there is that Etsy pattern available, so be sure to check out the description. If you like this video and you want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching.